one of my favorite segments where I get to chat with a good friend of mine. And today is the day. She's super busy. So I'm so happy that she could cut a little bit of time for me out in her busy, busy schedule. You won't believe it. It's COVID-19, but this woman does not stop working because she's so good. Please welcome Maiya Sykes.
Pew, pew, pew. Yeah, hi. There you see, it's not me. It's not my family. In your head, they are fighting with their tanks and their bombs, and air bombs and their guns. In your head, they are crying. In your head, in your head, zombie, zombie, zombie. What is in your head? In your head, ooh, zombie, zombie, zombie.
How are you, girlfriend?
I am well. How are you?
Oh my goodness. Well, I'm locked up in my closet, so it could be worse.
Well, at least you have a fabulous closet. I remember that very well from your house.
Right? So yeah, for all fans and friends, how did I met this marvelous woman? We performed last summer together at Teatro Zinzani, and it doesn't happen often, but the two of us, we went like click, click.
Well, you're pretty darn cool, I have to say. So if I was going to click with anybody, I was like, you know, that's a pretty cool ass chick.
Yes, on both sides. And so yeah, it was instant friendship, and we were like the same wave. We have the same humor, we like the same stuff, and we shared a dressing room together, and it was never boring.
It was never boring.
Right? Good stories, laughter, and
shout out to Svetlana, because she would crack me up in her corner.
Right? With her Russian accent.
You know what I figured out about Svetlana? Svetlana is basically the personification of Grumpy Cat if Grumpy Cat was Russian.
Yes! That's a great oh.
Like she even had like her own Russian version of the Grumpy Cat face and just be like, like whenever you made her annoyed, she'd be like, And it was Grumpy Cat, but Russian Grumpy Cat. Like she's Russian Grumpy Cat.
I love it. Yes, I love it. I love it. Yes. Yeah, we should. Here's a picture of her as a doll. Yeah, she played a doll in the show, and
I love that one picture where she was taking care, like she was grooming her doll while she was holding it. It was so funny.
The magic doll.
Was the funniest picture. I laugh at that picture to date. Like just sometimes I pull it up in my phone just to cackle because it's hilarious. She's so good at it too. I mean, she's an amazing performer. There's so many amazing performers at Teatro Zinzani, so that was cool to be a part of.
That's very true. They know how to pick their talents.
That is very true.
No wonder you ended up with us.
I'll try.
So, how about we just start on how did you end up at Teatro Zinzani? But I want to back up way.
Before time.
Yes! Give us a scoop. How did this all start?
Well, I am friends with a wonderful lady named Ariana Savalas, and she was actually slated to play the role of Madame Zinzani. And because of a scheduling conflict, they had to move the show later, and it ended up overlapping with some things that she had to do. So she suggested me as a replacement, and I was just I had been on a tour, and then the tour dates got canceled for that time. So I just kind of had this perfect window of time. It just kind of worked out. And I mean, if you're going to luck out to spend any time anywhere, Seattle in the summer is not a bad place to land. Right? So it was nice. And I remember going back and forth with Rini because we were trying to figure out, dates and if I could sub out the right amount of things. yeah, and I had never participated in something of that nature. I had definitely done shows where I was away for long periods of time, but I had never done, Teatro Zanzani is definitely quite unique. So, I mean, for those that don't know, it's a combination of cirque, dinner theater, comedy, and music. And that's a lot of things, and they somehow make it work. So for me, it was a great opportunity because I've been told for a lot of my life that I'm funny, and people are like, you should be a stand-up comedian. I'm like, nah, because see, just because you're funny does not mean you should be a stand-up comedian. That's like saying to somebody, you make awesome spaghetti. Can you now grow a tomato? Do you see what I'm saying? Like they're two different joints. And it gave me an opportunity to exercise being funny in a way that I could do. Like, I'm not a comedian. I shouldn't say never, never's a long time.
You have the chops.
But it's not even that. I have such appreciation and respect for the art form. I know what goes into it. You write jokes, you test them out, you see which ones work. That's not my area of expertise.
Now it is. I watched you every night performing with Kevin Kent.
But I was just improvising. That's
I know
than writing a joke,
Yeah, but I mean, a lot of comedy is written by just, things you experience in life. And you just have that funny bone.
First, let us call Sister Zanzani in here for a hymn. Are you ready for a miracle? Yes, they are. Woo! Are you ready for a miracle? Oh, are you ready? Are you ready? Are you ready for this miracle? That one's ready. Oh, sister, lay your hands in mine and let me quote to each and every one of you from recipe 147. 147? In which I believe it says that 3 o'clock came along. And it was time for a snack. Yes. Now, was that a healthy snack? Or was it a bag of chips? Pipeline to the devil. Oh, if it was a healthy snack, I'll tell you what, that could have been celery. With peanut butter slathered on it. And Mama said they were raisins. But it's called Ants on a Log. That sounds disgusting.
Well, he was great to play off against. It was great to be kind of the straight man to his comedic timing,
Oh, with the big red clown nose. I loved listening to that bit every night because you always would come up with funny shit. And I was just like, oh, yes, girl. Nailed it.
Well, it would be interesting to see what people would react to. You never know what people are going to find funny. And there's a really fine line, as you know. I mean, I always thought it was so brave, because of the victim that that could go wrong. I remember the one time it did kind of go wrong, and that guy was kind of an asshole. And I was like, 1 star. He gets 1 star.
Yeah.
So it's a hard bag.
That particular guy was booed by the audience. So even the audience was like, you're lame.
Because he got half a star. Half a star. Gentlemen, if you are watching this broadcast, sir, let me look into the camera. If you are watching this, sir, don't go someplace where it is live interaction and go out of your way to be a wet napkin. People will boo you.
Wet napkin, exactly.
The end. 1 star.
Oh, I love it. Yeah, that was quite an adventure. It was beautiful. It was really, really fun.
Yeah. I injured myself, so then I had to have surgery. And so the subsequent part wasn't fun. But during the time I was there, it was fun. And it was great to meet so many wonderful people. It was a great cast and crew.
Your knee. How is your knee? Is it better now?
It's coming along. I had to have arthroscopic knee surgery, and I have to have 2 more injections. But unfortunately, when they were going to schedule my injections, the world decided to have a global pandemic.
Oh,
rude.
no!
How rude. So I'm just waiting until we get out of quarantine, and then I'll get my. Well, also, I haven't gotten a stimulus, or I don't think I qualify for unemployment yet. So I'm just like, okay, we just gonna see how this gonna go. But I've been lucky. I had a little bit of work before the whole thing went down, and I've been able to start learning how to record high quality at home. So I've been able to learn Pro Tools well enough to record the things that people need me to record and send them. But if you ask me like, okay, can you add an effect and a fade? Like I haven't gotten to that part of class yet. So you're gonna have to wait, because that part of the book is in chapter 10 and I'm on chapter 7. Okay.
I'm pretty sure you mastered this in no time. Well, that's the beauty. You're not just a singer, you also write and produce music.
Yes, I do. And that has actually been a saving grace in this time. So I'm grateful that I have made a way to be able to do that while this is going down, because I think that everybody in the creative field is really at a crossroads where we don't know what things are going to do. But I know some people that are surviving. We're like, yeah, I'm creative, so I'm going to figure out a creative approach. You're a perfect example. You were like, I got a closet, I got bandwidth, I got costumes, bye. You know what I mean? So it's going to take that kind of ingenuity and thinking, okay, I might not have all the resources, but what resources do I have? What resources does my neighbor have? My friend, you know what I'm saying? Like I've had friends who are singers and we've been helping each other out. Like I had extra mic cables, another friend had an extra interface, I lent headphones to another friend and she lent me a light to do a video. So I think that the creative community at large needs to remember community is at the base of who we are. So we will survive. I think that we have a fighting chance more so than any other group, because we've been poor forever. Nobody know how to make a dollar stretch more than a creative person. That's right? Just facts. So, I'm grateful that I've been able to eke out, not my regular existence, but an existence. And I know how fortunate I am to be in that boat.
Well, it helps that you are so freaking talented.
Oh, well, thank you.
Well, you mentioned that Ariana Savalas couldn't make it, so that's how you ended up in TZ.
She recommended me.
Two of you, how do you know each other?
I was lucky enough to meet the wonderful Ariana because we both work with a group called Postmodern Jukebox. So I actually met her she had been working with Postmodern Jukebox probably for about a year and some change before I had gotten there, but we were asked to do this specific show at a comedy club in Los Angeles. And she just walked in and she sat down and she had these she was trying to put on eyelashes and she had these pithy little eyelashes. And I was like, girl, come here. And I was like, okay, no to these, and you're going to wear these. And she was like, you're my new best friend. And literally, that's how we became friends. And we have this joke because we call each other Goose and Maverick. And I'm always saying, I'm the goose to your Maverick. And she's always saying vice versa. So I was very, very lucky to meet a fabulous young lady who also is an entrepreneur and a hustler. She can come up with her creative thing at the drop of a dime. And I think I have been very blessed in my life. I attract those kinds of people. Those kinds of people just see me and they're like, oh, you're part of my tribe. And yes. When I immediately met Ariana, I definitely got that vibe. I was like, you and I speak the same language. And then she ended up telling me about her dad because I knew the name was in my head, and I said, just on a whim, I was like, are you any relation to Telly Savalas? And she's like, yeah, that's my dad. And later down the line we were talking, I said, I totally forgot to mention this, but my great uncle was a costume designer. His name was Bill Witten, and he was a very well-known Black costume designer. In fact, one of his most notable creations was he designed the glove for Michael Jackson. He was Michael Jackson's costume designer for about 28 years, but he made a lot of custom pieces for Kojak. And Telly Savalas was one of the first leading white males in a show, a crime drama, that insisted that there be people of color in the production, in the backdrop. During the first season and a half, they were making all of the villains like Puerto Rican and Black people. And he was like, I will walk off the show. So he was one of the first people that really went out of his way to make sure that ethnic people were represented. And if you go back and watch that show, you'll start to see that, like I want to say like the end of the second season and the third season, you start seeing Black and Puerto Rican and whatever doctors and lawyers and just different bank tellers, and just they weren't just always the thugs. And he was one of the first people who did that in the late 70s. And my uncle made a lot of his suits, and he also did a bunch of custom trench coats for him. And she was like, oh my God. So it was just cool to have that reach back, and that she didn't know that I knew about what her, a lot of people know her dad because of his, entertainment prowess, but a lot of people don't know that. And he didn't make a big deal about it. He wasn't like, let me go toot my own horn. He was just like, no, screw that. And he was one of the first people to do so. And I think that that's a huge deal, and that not a lot of people talk about that.
That's amazing. Mm-hmm. What a great interlink there. Wow. Wow. Well, I'm thinking like, do I have a cool uncle like that or an aunt? I don't. Damn. My family story sucks.
No, it doesn't. You know what it is that my family story is so piecemeal. A lot of it, I think, is mostly true, but there's like inflations of this and this, but a lot of it is my family had to come from different walks of life and find ways to be creative, because there were so many blocks to that. Even my great uncle was telling me he was a very, very fair, light-skinned Black man. And so my grandmother, his sister, was darker skinned, and she figured out whenever she would use a chemical relaxer on his hair, it would turn his hair red. So she would chemically relax his hair, gel it down, and cut it like a beetle so he could go to the library because he could pass for white. So this is what I'm saying. Like, we didn't have those. So a lot of the stories that I hear are us just pushing it forward, pushing it forward. And of course that sounds interesting because struggle's interesting. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, but if you have struggles and you want something, I think you really go for it.
Yeah. But I also think if you come from, I look at my family history, and my great grandmother made all of the children know how to sew. So you had to know how to sew your own pants and pajamas by the time you were like 5 or 6. So all of the kids knew how to make their own shirts, their own pants. But that was an era where you did that.
Yes.
And I look at what we as people have now. We definitely have obstacles, but they're different obstacles. So I don't know that we tell the story of us pushing forward as much because it's just not seen. You don't see the adversity as much as you would have in those times.
That's very true. Yeah, I mean, for me, I don't have the color issue, but like my parents didn't want me to become an actress, and they always blocked me and said, no, there's no way, but I really, really wanted it. And I always blamed my parents that I could have started earlier, but then when I look back now, I'm like, because they said no, I pushed harder, and I really got where I wanted to be and proved myself, and it was actually a good boost.
I think that's kind of the origin story of a lot of creative people. And I think that there's a couple of different camps. I come from the camp of everybody in my family already did this. So I just kind of fell in line. It wasn't like I had to, what I'm saying? Like, my parents met on the road. My mother is a singer and actor and producer and director. My father is a singer. He had his own band for a long time. He plays almost every horn you can think of. He's ambidextrous, so he can play 2 horns at the same time.
What?
Yeah, like my great uncle was a costume designer for not just Michael Jackson, Neil Diamond, Earth, Wind and Fire, a whole bunch of other people. His other brother, the next up from him, was a really, really famous modern artist named Jack Whitten. His other brother was a really famous pastry chef. Like, so we just had, I don't know. And then on my mom's side, we had a whole bunch of sports figures that became famous. So my cousin is James Lofton, who's like a football Hall of Famer. I have another cousin named Kenny Lofton, who's a Major League Baseball Hall of Famer. So we just, my mom's family also was in the Black Rodeo. My grandmother was one of the original managers of the Lone Branch Saloon and discovered Willie Nelson. So there's just history on both sides of my family from entertainment, like boom, bah, 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 bah. There was no... we were creative. And the one thing that I do credit both my parents for saying was they told me, if this is what you want to do, this is what you got to do. You can't have a backup plan. Everything that you are learning needs to be about how to finesse this. And you should still learn other things besides music, because music business requires skills. It's called business for a reason. So my mother was very, very gangster about my education. She was like, you can go to choral classes and you can take, there's always some telemarketer calling when I'm about to do something. Like every time, I don't know, like, do they know, like, oh, Maiya has an interview, let's call her right now and offer her an awning even though she lives in an apartment. Sweet.
Man.
But yeah, so my mom, my mother especially, was of the ilk that you can take, music classes, whatever, but you need good grades. And if you're going to take any kind of choral classes, you have to take music theory. I am only good at music theory because my mother refused to let me drop out of them classes.
Wow.
That's for real.
Well, thanks, Mom.
I think I probably have the only Black parent who was like, geez, all right already. You don't have to learn. My mom was like, you gonna know what a sharp and a rest and a flat is. I had to stay. I went to a private school from 7th to 12th grade, and I was in music theory from 7th to 12th grade.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's some good bass right there.
But I also went to one of the best private schools in California, and they had one of the best music programs in the world. They had one of the best science programs in the world. They had like a state-of-the-art theater department, and it was a place where movie stars dropped off their children, which was very disconcerting to see at 7:55 in the morning, because that's why you need hair and makeup. Like, wow. they should be put on an essentials list.
Hello. So you mastered in music?
I majored in what they called theater arts performance, and then I also majored in English in high school, because I went to a high school that allowed for you to major, to have like interdisciplinary majors.
Wow, that's incredible. So school is done. What happened next?
Then I went to college, and then I went to grad school, then I went to another music program for like a year after that. And then I was like, if I go to any more school, I don't think I'm legally going to be allowed to live, because I'm going to be in debt from school for the rest of my natural existence. And sadly, that's been kind of true. Like, I've been paying off my collegiate education for the last 19 years. And I'm not done.
Oh, man.
And I'm not done.
I love America, but this country is so backwards.
You're telling me. And when they had the whole loan forgiveness, like forbearance forgiveness thing, it cut off to right before I graduated from college. So the start date for it was 2001 to, I want to say, 2015. And I graduated in 2000. And I was like, if anybody needs the money for I've been paying this. Like, I haven't deferred it. I've been paying it for 20 years. And when I first graduated, when I finished my master program and I came back, my student loan payments, I ended up having to take classes at a junior college so that I could defer my student loan payments, because my student loan payments were $742 a month as a 22-year-old person.
It's crazy.
Yup. I could have had 2 houses. I don't know. But I mean, I do have a dope education. So, you know, you take the good, you take the bad. You take them both, and there you have the facts of life.
Well, I see in your resume you toured with a bunch of people.
I have.
As
I've been
a
touring for a
backup
long ass
singer.
time.
Who was it? It was
Let's see. My first, I toured with Macy Gray the longest, so I was with her for about 6.5 years. And then I've done a lot of like side tours, and I've done a lot of TV performances, and I've done a lot of session recordings. So I've done, I guess, like the most notable people I've done recently. I want to say like let's see, Tori Kelly, Black Eyed Peas, Fantasia, Lupe Fiasco, Aloe Black. I'm sure there's some other people I'm not remembering. You know, after a while, like you do it here and do there. Rita Ora, I was with Rita Ora for a little while. I did Leona Lewis for a little while. She was very sweet. Yeah, I mean, I just kind of try to stay employed.
well, I
So
think
there
you're
you
doing
go.
a good job at that.
I
Being-
try. But it's tough, you know. I think that I just constantly keep trying to carve out a niche that I fit in by being as unique as possible so that you have a hard time replacing me.
Yes,
That's
I
the
think
best
you
I can
have
do.
a very unique voice,
Oh, thank you.
and that will really, I think will help you, has helped you, and will help you.
I hope so. I
and-
mean, it's the thing I like to do the most, so I hope I'm decent at it at this point in time. But I'm always trying to improve. There's always a better way than mine. There's always something to learn, and there's always a way to grow.
I think you proved it already. Like you were on The Voice, all the chairs turned around. I mean,
Oh, yeah.
Guess it's true, I'm no good at a one-night stand. But I still need love, I'm just a woman. But these nights never seem to go to plan. But I don't want you to leave. Will you hold my hand? Oh, won't you stay with me? Because you're all that I need. Well, this ain't love, it's clear to see. But darling, stay with me. Why am I so emotional? No, it's not a good look, ain't some self-control. Well, deep down I know this never works. But you can lay here with me till it doesn't hurt. Oh, stay with me. Because you're all I need. This ain't love, it's clear to see. So my darling, just stay with me. Oh, I want you to stay with me.
I don't want to say it's some TV magic in a mean way, but you know, I'm grateful for the 4-chair thing. You know, it was sweet. My mama cried. Everybody jumped up and down and whatnot. But a lot of that is if you got a song that was popular around that time, if you went early enough in the audition process so that all the teams hadn't been filled up, so that people were more willing to do, you know, so they try to, they go for, okay, we think this person might get a 4-chair turn, so we're going to try to put that person closer up in the thing because that makes for good television. But at the end of the day, all those shows, their responsibility is to make good TV. The Voice is comprised of some wonderful people, and I made a lot of wonderful friends. But if you're going to do one of those shows, The Voice, America's Got Talent, American Idol, insert show here, right? You have to be cognizant of the fact that these people have a #1 directive of making good TV. They don't have to like you, care about your feelings. So if you do those shows, you got to have that little grain of salt in the back of your mind. You can't get too wedded to like, oh, it wasn't fair, or oh, I thought they'd be this. You know what I'm saying? Like, this
Yeah.
is television.
Been there, done that.
And it can psych your mind out because, you know, on camera they were, you know, throwing stuff across the way, being like, no, I want her, da, da, da. The very next episode I'm kicked off. And when they're talking about, you know, will anybody save Maiya, da, 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 crickets. These were the people who just a couple weeks earlier were fawning all up, because that's good TV. It isn't a bad statement about the people involved or the judges. I am sure they are all wonderful people. I am a very tiny cog in a very, very large mechanism. So I'm not expecting anybody to be like, oh, I feel badly that Maiya was sad. Mm-mm.
Well, that's a very good description. Yes. It is television.
And you have to be cognizant of the fact that it is television.
Yeah. Yeah, I did America's Got Talent. It was quite painful.
Mm-hmm. I haven't talked, there are very few people that I've talked to that have done those kinds of shows that didn't have some kind of bittersweetness attached to it. And but you do it because it raises your platform. You can get this, you can, you know, there are ways that it does elevate you. And so you take those gambles because, you know, if done in the right way, they do pay off. And that's why those shows will always have some kind of place and always exist.
Yeah. Do you feel like the show helped you a little bit?
I'm sure it did. In some ways, it took me a little while to see the help. But I'm sure it did.
Yeah, for me, just having in the bio performed at America's Got Talent, doesn't even matter if you made it to the end or whatever, just that you were on the show, you got like 5 stars from fans. Yeah. Like, wow, who knew?
Because you can even say, I mean, I remember somebody described me as a voice finalist, and I was like, no, I didn't even make it to the top 20. And they were like, no, it's 7,000 people that are narrowed down to the executive callback, and then there's like all these cuts and cuts and cuts and cuts. So by the time it gets to who auditions, it's maybe 150 people. So if you can make it to 24 out of that, you know, or 48 rather, out of that 100 and some, you kind of technically did make the finals. Technically.
That's
if you started at a huge number and whittled it down to 5,000, whittled it down to 2, and whittled it down to 1, and whittled it down to 500, if you were able to, that's still a big mark. And there is something to be said for that.
I love it. Yes. That's how you should look at it. Ah, you're so wise. You're so wise.
You know, I'm just in my life, I'm trying to find ways to look at things in a positive way, because there is nothing to be gained from brooding about what coulda, shoulda, woulda been. If I was supposed to do well on The Voice as a contestant or whatever, that would have happened. I am a very, very firm believer in God. And if, in my opinion, you believe in God, you need to believe in God's will. It was God's will for it to go that way. So it was the right way for it to go.
Nice. Yes. Oh, your wisdom. Your wisdom. So now I'm waiting for a book coming out about your family. I hope you started writing, and I need a book from you then, next on the shelves about motivational, how to motivate yourself.
Lately, I have a hard time motivating myself out of my bed to not be in my refrigerator, but that's just me. Like, I'm hoping they come out with a full spank, like a full version of a spank, like a head to toe version, like a spank bodysuit, because I'm me.
So what gets you out of bed? Are you working on some projects right now?
Yeah, I was lucky enough to have a couple of projects in the works before the Rona killed our vibe. So I worked on a gentleman's record. I did all the backgrounds for it. So I'm actually going to finish my very last song today, and it was 15 songs. It was a lot.
Wow.
And then another girl, I did about 5 songs on her record. I did 2 movie cues, and then I wrote what's something called Top Line for 2 other producers. Like they sent me tracks that almost are like karaoke tracks. They didn't have the lyrics and the melody, so I wrote that, and that's called Top Line if you are looking at it in a pop musical setting. Like that's what pop music terms call it, when you write the lyrics and the melody to an already produced track.
Wow, that's cool. Well, did you had work lined up for the rest of the year? What are we missing out on with you?
No, I did have work, and I was supposed to go on 2 tours. I sing a lot of weddings to kind of make ends meet when I'm home, because it's a pretty lucrative thing in Los Angeles anyway. And all that got pushed to 2021. Both tours got pushed then. I was supposed to do a corporate event. It got pushed to, I want to say, September. So right now I'm just trying to learn as much of the recording side as I can. And I'm also trying to learn just different ways to shoot videos in my house and utilize the resources that I have, invest in a few small things that aren't going to like totally tap me out. You know, and I'm learning. So, but I mean, I definitely feel like I've had to learn to be 19 different chicks, like, you know, in the last 2 months. Like I had to learn video editing, photo lighting, recording software. I feel like I even tell people, I'm like, okay, see this outfit and this makeup and hair, you're going to see about 6 challenges and 2 videos with this configuration, because I'm only putting on a wig, eyelashes, and Spanx once a week. I have no makeup team. This shit is hard. I'm going to do this shit on time, weekly. Bye-bye.
Well, thanks for putting all that stuff on you for my show.
You know.
I appreciate it, girl.
You know. So I'm like, I'm gonna take advantage of it. I was like, okay, I gotta do this other person's challenge. I gotta do these 2 videos, and then I gotta do some tapings for my students, because I haven't been able to do that. By the time I get done with all the recording, like I'm supposed to be doing, I'm like, okay, let me record these videos. I'm like, it's 1 o'clock. I maybe shouldn't be doing these vocals from my neighbors. Like that's rude. That's rude. But I will say one thing that's cool in my building is my building has a lot of creative people in it. So it's actually been kind of dope that I've had to tell people, okay, I'm gonna start recording your vocals as soon as my neighbor finishes teaching her ballet Zoom class. And then my other neighbor finishes teaching his IG salsa class.
Funny. Do you have like a little calendar in the hallway
Oh,
outside?
we should though, because like it's going down. Like my one neighbors, they are on Dancing with the Stars, so they do ballroom, and they literally like transform there, and they have private lessons with people, and they set them up on Zoom, and they've been teaching privately. And then they also go to they drive, because they have a studio, so then they also do it in their studio and set up a little thing there. But my neighbor, she does ballet, bar, and Pilates. She's amazing, and she does a class. You can take a class on Zoom with her privately, but she also just does a daily Instagram thing, and you can take it for free. Like if you give her she's like, donations are appreciated, but they're not required. And she does this every morning at 10:30. So you could be getting your full on, like with a certified like master for like $3.
Impressive.
So yeah, I love that my neighbors are like, I have another neighbor downstairs. She's an amazing makeup artist. So she got the landlord's kid and did all these like beautiful test shots on her, because she could. Like, we all here, what we doing? So I just love that I live in a place where creativity is not only finding a way, it's thriving. Like we were just like, we're creative, you're not going to hold us down. And everybody was just like, okay, you got this, and Like I'm actually hitting up the makeup artist lady, because her name is Nelly Ricania, and she's amazing, and she does a lot of special effects makeup, and she teaches at 2 schools. So she was like, yeah, I'm bored, you're bored. I was like, could I slide you a couple bucks and you could do it? She's like, yeah. So I'm grateful that I'm in a place where we are a thriving community of creative people, and it doesn't bother me that I'm like, okay, no, for real, I gotta wait till 11:30 to record these vocals, or else you're gonna hear classical ballet music and somebody, in French being like, and she has the cutest French accent. It's the dopest thing ever. And she's like, un grand pli, it's the cutest thing you've ever seen in your life. So
Yes.
But I love that. And you know, it's so the other
Yeah.
thing that's really sweet is my neighbor Kati, who teaches the ballet classes. We have this ritual where if we go to the market and there's a sale on flowers, we get extra flowers for each other. So she'll leave flowers on the doorstep, and then I'll leave flowers, and then she'll leave oranges, and I'll leave apples. And I just think that's, especially during this time, I really think that's I've been, how do I say? I have been holding on to and really cherishing those small, tiny things that people are doing for each other.
Yeah.
Because I think that they're really important. Just those small little things. Like the other day, I went shopping for my neighbor because she's recovering from surgery and she's in the higher risk group. So I said, listen, you know, I have to go shopping anyway. I want to just pick you up things. And then the next day she said, okay, well, can I write you a check for what? Oh, you know, I was like, yeah, sure. It's this much, but you know, you don't need to. It was only like, you know, $40 and it's okay. And she gave me a check for like $100. And it was just something that, and at first I was like, you don't need to do this. And she was like, nope, we all need to. And she was she's such a prim and proper lady. She said, nope, we all have to respect each other's choices. And I couldn't say anything because she was right. That was her way of being part of it. Like, we're in a dialogue. It's not like, oh, I'm having pity on you, let me do something. It's not that.
Yeah.
And because I kept telling her, like, it's not a problem. I was going to do this anyway, and you're a part of my community, and I would like to help in this way. Her response was, you're a part of my community, and I want to help in this way. And just those little small things are really getting me by. That as much as we want to believe that humanity is doomed, just those little small acts remind me that it's not, and that it's worth preserving, and that it's precious, you know?
Yes. Oh, I love this. I mean, that's the best message so far I heard about COVID-19. I love it. I want to live in your building. I live in a house. I have a lot of land, and I don't see anyone. I'm really locked up in my little tree house. But on our end in Seattle, I can see also that artists come together and share footage and do stuff for each other, and I think it really helps us our world to connect in a new way, and
that connection is so important that we will figure it out. That's what I think is the great story.
Yes.
You know, when told you need to stay inside and this impedes all connection, people were like, okay, we can do virtual concerts. We can use this. We can have virtual wine parties. We can have virtual reunions. We can have virtual birthday parties, drive-by birthday parties, social people figured it out, because at our heart, what we want is to be together. And it doesn't matter how we figure that out and what permutation that comes into, we still figure it out because the desire is still there. And that to me is reassurance and life affirming, that when it's all said and done, given you could throw the book at it and people will still find a way to connect. I think that's reassuring and wonderful news, even in a time where there isn't a lot of reassuring and wonderful news. Because every time I turn the news on and like, I see a press conference, something, I'm like, oh my God, we gonna die.
Let's keep it positive. Let's keep it positive.
You know, but I think that the positives are that, you know, just even I just saw the other day, one of my neighbors was struggling with her groceries, and and somebody yelled at her, just put them down and tell me where they're supposed to go. And she stepped out of the way and she said, I live on the third house on the left. And this guy with his mask on and his gloves just picked up that lady's groceries and he left them there. He said, at the doorstep.
Wow. Oh,
that's really cool. Like,
yeah.
And just that those things are happening, you know, means that humanity still has a really good shot. And that's a really great thing to remember.
And we're finding back to humanity. We're not so locked up in phones and other shit.
You didn't have a choice. You didn't have a choice.
Now we have to, take care of each other.
Yeah.
That's I think a beautiful note to unfortunately finish this. Our time is up. You girl are so freaking entertaining. I can talk to you for hours and hours and hours.
Well, I'm glad we got to do this because I was like, I miss her. I'm glad I get to talk to her.
Right back at ya.
Well, we have to have like a virtual. Okay. So are you still doing your no sugar thing? Because I'll get a virtual White Claw and we can have a wine down, or we can do it with actual wine, or we can go old school and use mangoes and vodka like we did for the closing of Teatros. Remembers that show?
Sounds like a deal. You know, I did the no sugar diet and I'm vegan now.
Ooh.
Since 8 months, 9 months, and has been
How's
really
that going?
good for me. Great.
Okay, awesome.
And because I did that sugar diet, the only thing I crave is alcohol, unfortunately. But the chocolate and the candy and the cake is not interesting for me anymore.
Well, and they have really good vegan chocolates and candies and cakes too.
They do. Yeah.
Like that's the thing. I was like, if you want to be a vegan in today, like 15 years ago, being a vegan was like, okay, you just gonna eat oats. But today, you know, there's a lot of options.
It is, yes. Yeah, I just came back 8 weeks ago from Chicago, and I brought the whole vegan cooking into my household. My kids are slowly getting sold on it. My husband was on board right away, but my kids are like, so this is not a real sausage?
Also, your kids
I want pork chops.
Yeah, like your kids is half German. They're like,
yeah, they're like,
vegan schnitzel. I don't know about
don't
vegan
put a
schnitzel.
vegan sausage in my sauerkraut.
Yeah, like I don't know about this.
Very true. But
the
yeah,
Impossible sausages are bomb. So try those.
Yeah,
really
there's some good stuff out there. I found vegan burger patties my kids are sold on, and I found some good chicken nuggets. There's some good substitutes. And we're getting.
And we probably should have eaten that stuff anyway, because if you've ever looked at real at like chicken nuggets made with chicken, it's like chicken is the 9th ingredient.
Right. So true. So true. Well, my love, I'm gonna get my mango ready and my tequila. So next time we Zoom, we have a little beautiful cocktail hour. And thank you so much for the time you took and the stories you shared. You're in my heart, and I missed you.
You are in my heart, and it's so great to see you, my love.
Stay safe and stay healthy.
You too. My love to your family.
In the eye, you're just like an angel. Your skin makes me cry. You float like a feather.